are doing episode 10 or 11 of this show that you're both regulars on.
Yeah.
What does it sort of feel like being sort of in one part of the show and then knowing that there are sort of the other compartments of the
Jealous.
strain?
Just jealous. I mean, no, it's such a rich canvas of characters that the strain encompassed, and I'm just happy to be one of them, truly. But yeah, there's so many worlds. I mean, I would love it if Kelly and Bolivar could hang out. You know, that would be fun, but you know, our paths have yet to cross. We'll see. I mean, if you've read the books, there is more in store and more fun to be had. But for now, yeah, Kelly's more of a homebody.
You talk a bit about her relationship here with her ex, and obviously when we meet them, trying to mend fences to a point, but obviously she's also moving on. So what does she make of what does she make of him? Does she kind of put him in the past, or is she still, he's the father of her child, so he's gonna be around.
Yeah, she's definitely moving on, and I think from the pilot, I'm not sure if you've seen it.
Yes.
I haven't.
Oh, you should
Yeah,
see it. It's
Really?
really good.
Jealous.
Spoilers!
It wasn't here that day that they aired it, so I'm going to see it soon. But from what I remember when we shot it in September, the jumping off point for Kelly is, she's definitely done, but she still loves him. So rather than be really bitter and angry to go through a custody battle, it's still from a place of love and doing what she thinks is best, and having to be a little bit selfish. She's gone tired of putting her husband and his job first, even though it was always the most important thing. It was always a matter of life and death, which always took precedence over, dinner as a family. But eventually, she just had to put herself first, and that's where we meet Kelly. And yeah, a little bit trying to get a little bit selfish.
Can you talk about your casting and why you wanted the part?
Well,
I mean, it's obvious. For the record.
why wouldn't I want the part? I'm just remembering the very first audition. It was so well written, and elements of levity, despite the darkness of the project, and the humanity that Kelly's character brings, amidst such a dark tale, and just the essence of family and commitment, and there was no part of me that wouldn't want to be part of this project.
Guillermo del Toro is such a larger-than-life figure. Coming into the project, and that was probably a major reason why, was being able to work with him, and I'm sure you've heard stories about working on a set with him. Was there anything that surprised you about him?
Just how down-to-earth he was. For such a genius, because that's what he is. He's the most affable, down-to-earth man. The minute I met him, he's a hugger, and just very inclusive and really wants to invite you into his world, as was Carlton Cuse. I mean, they were both very warm and generous in the room when I met them at the audition. He can, he's capable of being just very not serious. He's happy to make fun of himself, and a lot of levity on set and jokes, but at the same time he's laser focused with vision and a perfectionist with his vision, but also just very relaxed to work for. And as a director, very, very specific. He used very specific words with me that really resonated in the audition process as well as on set filming the pilot, and knows exactly what he wants, and is so relaxed that there's just an ease to work for him. It takes the pressure off working for someone of that stature.
I've only interviewed him once, but just seeing him at various Comic-Con panels or even watching DVD features, there's so much enthusiasm that emanates from him. So was that for you, working with him? Do you just feel that he's just happy to be there, enthusiasm?
Yeah, very excited about his project. A lot of people have described him as a big kid, with a huge mind and a big heart. And you can't help but get wrapped up in that enthusiasm and want to help bring his vision to life. You just want to be a part of that.
Now, obviously, don't want to spoil much, but the way you were talking earlier, it sounds as if you've read the books. Have you read all three?
All the books, yes.
Okay, what is your reaction when you see Kelly's arc? Does that make you more excited going forward, or wary, or what?
Very torn. It's very exciting as an actor to play what is coming, but for the sake of Kelly, your heart breaks, and I know that I'm a very hopeful person, somewhat of a romantic, and kind of hope for some kind of cure and reconciliation that unfortunately doesn't come. But you can still play the hope. And yeah, it's about to get very interesting because I feel like you guys are here a week too early because this Friday is when I finally get my vamp on. Yeah, so things get, up until this point, it's been a very, emotional journey for Kelly and really struggling to establish some kind of stability in her home life. And unfortunately, it's amidst the chaos that, we see in the pilot. So I don't think she ever quite gets what she's hoping for, but she's certainly going to fight for it.
We did get to see your house, though. It looks like it got a little roughed up.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, no?
I honestly, you've seen so much more than I have because what I'm about to shoot is a flashback. So I have not shot since episode 6, which was back in January, and I left Matt in a fight, because he's struggling to be the man of the house, and I want to be in charge of things. For the first time, Kelly is putting herself first and is trying to take charge of the family because everything has been at the whim of F's schedule and his career, and it's been all about him. And just as she's struggling to try to be at the helm, hell breaks loose. But yeah, you've seen the aftermath, and I have yet to live it.
You have a headless corpse on your floor.
But that's not unrelated to anything happening in the home. Does
And
that
a Gloria Steinem book
I
on
was
the
going to say,
porch.
that'll teach him to ever try to overstep. Instead, this is what happened. Wow, I can't wait to see it.
That made me curious when they said that this headless corpse has nothing to do with anything being shot here. Since most of the stuff you've been filming obviously is not the vampire-centric stuff yet.
No.
Is this still a set though where you're just walking around and you're like, oh, there's a headless corpse, there's some stuff going on?
I've been very curious to try to peek, but whenever I'm scheduled to work, it's usually straight to there's the therapist's office, there's Kelly's house, and that's been her whole world, which is obviously about to change. I only saw, I work with Corey, lucky me, and my son Ben, but I literally had only seen John Bradley once in the distance, but we never got to officially meet, and Mia, who I adore, we never have gotten to work together yet. So I'm actually excited for what's to come because it allows the worlds to, intertwine.
Did you sort of sneak on set at any time just to sort of watch any of the other stuff happening to see any of it?
I would love to, but the scheduling has not permitted. I'm telling you, I'm going to be the most boring interview of the day. I've got nothing to spill. You know more than I do. You've seen more than I have.
We'll talk to you in 2 years.
Or even a couple of days.
You should request to visit set as a journalist.
I honestly should. I'd like to know more. I actually read the graphic novel just over the weekend just to sort of refresh myself with the whole world that is the strain. But primarily, Kelly's world is very insular.
I just want to go on record, though. Woman reading a graphic novel. Hot.
Yeah. I got to see more of the graphic novel than I ever do on set.
That's fantastic.
Is it tough for you to go so long in between episodes then? In between shooting? Is it difficult to get back into it?
A little bit. I always go over the previous scripts just to remind myself of exactly where we left off because it has been 3 episodes, but this is a flashback to, it's only, the whole scope we started shooting in September.
Right.
But really only, I think, 6 or 7 days have gone by.
Wow.
So it's a lot of haircuts and keeping everything exactly the same. Sunscreen, nail filing, and haircuts to keep everything the same. Yeah.
I jokingly asked Corey about this, but is it sort of terrifying to be playing an established character in kind of the nerd community? It's going to be, for instance, you guys may be at Comic-Con coming up, that there's already a perception of who the character is, and then you kind of have to base your performance off of maybe what fans are expecting, or if they don't get what they want.
Well, I think if you really try to, it's scary territory. If you're trying to, please everyone, you definitely have to approach a character from a place of honesty and truth, of course. But for example, I know when I read the first book, Kelly is blonde, and she's described, physically very different. But if Guillermo is is on board to have her live like I do in brunette. I mean, he said, Ephraim, either when you break up with one relationship, you either go for the complete opposite, which is what he had in mind in the book. Nora was completely different from what his wife was. Or there's a guy who's got a type. So he cast me and decided that Ephraim's got a type. Lucky for me. And I would love the opportunity to go to Comic-Con. I've been in a couple of other supernatural shows, but I've always been human. So I've been being human. I played the human. It wasn't a ghost for nearly long enough. I think it was an afternoon before I got my door. No, it wasn't. It was like 3 minutes. And I get to work on Bitten as well.
Oh, that's
but
right,
also
yeah.
I'm a human. I'm the human friend. So we're off working out fingernails and, if you've seen the show, it's fairly violent. And I come in and I'm, wanting to know what we're going to have for dinner and what she's going to wear, So I'm really excited to delve into a deeper, darker area of the supernatural world and hopefully get to go to Comic-Con and hopefully, see what the fans think. But yeah, you just approach it as honestly as you can and hope that some, if not all, are pleased.
Can you talk about working with Corey? What does he do well? And did you two have any personal time at all prior to shooting, given that obviously you played man-woman?
Yeah, there was a chemistry read, and I was just blown away. The level of fullness that Corey brings to his performance. Just a very generous actor, for one thing. Just so full. I mean, you have such a plethora of things to play off of because he brings so much to the table and gives you so much. Every take would be something different depending on what you choose to work with. I've never been in the presence of such a generous actor. It's truly a dream come true to work with him. So yeah, the chemistry. And he's also very relatable and down to earth and so generous. So yeah, having to divorce him is probably the hardest thing to do as an actor. Yeah, to really get behind Kelly's point of view, to want to say, you know what, no, enough of that. When that is amazing.
But speaking along those lines, sort of the wife or ex-wife role on shows like this, it's tough because she's sort of the adversary to the person who's our hero. And so there's sort of the instinct we want F to be with his son, and you're keeping that from being possible. How do you keep Kelly from seeming like
the
a bad guy?
adversary? Yeah. Before she becomes the bad guy.
Sure.
Yeah. Honestly, just to really get behind the point of view that I'm really doing what I not only feel is best, but I just want my son to have a normal family life, and I want him to have a father figure who is present. I never doubt the fact that he loves his son. He's just, the demands of his job don't allow him to be physically present. And also, the same demands of the job don't allow him to be emotionally present for me as a husband, as a father. And you have to get a little bit selfish sometimes and single-minded with your view in order to do what you think is ultimately best for the family unit. And at this point in her life, stability and reliability is really what she wants to raise a young son. And she's found that in her boyfriend, Matt. He's not nearly as dynamic or exciting. He manages Sears, but that's exactly what she's looking for at this point, is stability. And I know that when women over 35 are polled at what is the most attractive thing in a partner, it's no longer looks or money or sense of humor, it's reliability is the number one quality. And that's exactly what she's looking for. So unfortunately, F, in all of his charms and brains and good looks, can't offer the one thing Kelly so desperately craves.
A Sears discount.
And the discount. Yeah, when you're trying to maintain a home as nice as the good weather household is.
Yeah, you're gonna need
you
the
need
carpet
those
with the
discounts.
corpse all over the floors.
Yeah, and Kenmore makes some great vacuums. They make the best.
The great thing about the books now is that, for me, was that there's this real mix of horror, dialogue, really mentioning vampire mythology, but also big heart. Because obviously we are following these human characters and their struggle, and obviously Ephraim's going through divorce and he's trying to survive, and of course Kelly's heartbreaking as well. How important do you think that would be to the series ongoing, this balance between violence and vampires versus the human journey of these characters?
I think you need to balance it out. Like in any of these stories that do deal with, violence and gore and mythological creatures, there always has to be that human element. I think that's why, you guys are genre fans. that's what draws us are the the characters and the humanity behind the creatures. Having worked on Being Human, I mean that's the essence of the show is what makes us all human, and definitely struggle between the two worlds and trying to come to terms with everything that he's known as a doctor, and Nora's character especially too. There's so much humanity, and I'm not sure how much longer Kelly can provide the humanity and the heart, but she does still, I think, even once things turn the corner, she is still very much a mother figure who desperately wants her son, just in a very different way. Yeah. Vampire, human love turns to vampire need, right? So it'll be really interesting to play.
Are you a genre fan in general? Do you consider yourself a fan of, or you have through your?
I'm a fan of working in the genre.
I was going to say though, through that work you've done, because you happen to have done a few projects, has it sort of given you new insight into it?
It definitely has. I wasn't before. I definitely wasn't a fan of horror, only because I scare so easily. I do believe in evil, so I don't find it entertaining to watch. I find it truly deeply scary. The great thing about this, though, is I don't believe in vampires, and I've checked with Guillermo, and he's pretty sure they don't exist. But it's not folklore. He's pretty sure they exist. So I can wholeheartedly participate in this genre, and I'm just excited for all the opportunities it brings to as an actor. Just, so many it presents so many opportunities that, let's say, a broad comedy that I worked on hasn't before.
Well, why do you think in genre then that there are stronger writings for women as opposed to just basic dramas? Because you see more in genre like science fiction and horror that the women characters are stronger in these genres now than they are just your basic.
I grew up a Wonder Woman.
See, exactly.
So,
Linda Carter.
It's carte blanche as soon as you can give people superpowers. You're not held back by a lot of the norms and constraints that typical roles and other dramas confine you to. So sky's the limit when you've got a mind like Guillermo del Toro behind the writing, and I'm just really excited for what's in store. Jennifer Hutchinson has written an amazing episode for my transformation, and very excited for what she's presented to me. And it really, we don't just suddenly see her as this gory creature. We sort of see the transformation and the struggle to hang on to life as she knew it.
Cool.
Yeah.
What part of the supernatural world are you most looking forward to getting into? I'm guessing not the makeup chair. In several hours.
I was going to say, again, talk to me next week. I could have very different answers
Yeah.
for you. At this point, I am so game. I've only had, I think it was 10 minutes of prosthetics to have the mold made. And I'm not claustrophobic. I have no phobias. And again, I was just so excited. My first time really working with prosthetics. But the last 5 minutes of the 10 grew exceedingly more and more difficult as my senses were blocked. My ears, my eyes, my mouth completely covered in thickening, hardening silicone. Not so much for feeling claustrophobic, but more for just being cut off from people. And I'm a big communicator, and I like to be in contact, and I like to engage, and I wasn't able to look or speak or really communicate. So I was desperate to hold hands with people that I couldn't see. So it'll be interesting. One of the directors who I didn't have a chance to work with in the last episode, Charlotte Sealing, who's a lovely woman, actress, director, she said, take those 4 hours in the chair to really be able to go into the depths of your character and strip away so much of the humanity and things that you've relied on, and you become a much more sensory creature. And I have yet to do that, but I'm really excited to see what that does.
Did you see sketches of what she's going to look like? Of what?
It ain't pretty. There's not a way around it. No, these creatures are gruesome. I think they're as gruesome as they need to be to pose the threat that they do. I mean, these creatures and the virus pose a threat to humanity and life as we know it. So there's nothing pretty about
But
it.
is it recognizably you still?
I don't know. I can't. I wish I could tell you, but I think that Kelly, from what I understand, is a highly functioning vampire and somewhat more of a sentient being, capable of still having her own thoughts mixed in with the master. So I'm just anxiously awaiting to see malfunctioning.
There's a line in the pilot